Hello patrons, and welcome back to this part 4 of the tutorial series for this portrait. And for this part we've done all the features, so now we're going to focus on doing all the skin and getting that all blocked in, and then in the next part we'll be doing the hair and then all the details. So the first thing I'm going to do is just outline the sketch that I've done, because I can't really see it now that I've been working on all the other features. So I'm just going to outline the face that I'll need to add the skin to. To do that, I'm just going to use my lightest pencil that I'm using, which is the F pencil, and so I'm just going to go over my sketch so I can see it a bit better. I'm not applying much pressure at all. I just want to make sure that I can actually see the sketch. Okay, so now that I've outlined the area, I'm going to go in again with the F pencil and just start shading in where the shadows are. I'm going to be using a tissue to blend this out, so I don't need to worry about it being too smooth, because that's what the tissue will be for, like we've been using it in all the other parts. So I'm just using this to add in all of the skin. I'm starting with the F because it's the lightest, and then I'll use the 4B to add the more intense shadows and the contours. So this F pencil is light enough that we can use it all over the skin, because it's about the same shade as the highlights. And because we're using really smooth paper, it means that we're going to be able to get a really smooth finish anyway. So just covering up all of the area. Want to add values to the whole of the skin. So I'm definitely being really messy here when I'm doing this. You don't have to be this messy if you're worried that you won't be able to blend it out smoothly. But because I'm not applying much pressure, I know that I will be able to blend it out nice and smoothly. But if you were to use a lot of pressure, then it would be harder to blend it out. Go up into the hairline as well. So I'm just using the side of that pencil, holding it towards the back to restrict my pressure that I'm applying. And I'm using the directions that the face is actually going in. So I'm following the natural shape of the face. I actually think when I did my sketch, I brought it out a bit too far. Just going to raise that bit away. So I'm just going to keep adding that F pencil, adding another layer on where the more harsher shadows are, the darker shadows. Okay, and now I'm going to go in with my tissue, and I'm just going to use that to blend it all out, make it really smooth. I'm using circular motions. I'm using quite a bit of pressure. Oops, I think I smudged some of the actual charcoal from the eyebrows in here. We'll fix that in a minute. That was me just being a bit careless. See, now we've got a really smooth base to build on. Just keep going, blend it all out. I'm going to go in with my kneaded eraser, lighten that bit up a bit. Doesn't really matter because that's not too dark anyway. That area is quite dark, so it's okay. Now I'm going in with the 4B, and I'm going to use this for more of the shadows and try to start actually contouring the skin a bit more. And I'm going to blend it as I go this time, so that I know if I need to add more of the 4B pencil. So I'm going to lightly blend it, circular motions, and keep building it up. I'm going to try and not rest my hand on the areas that I've already done, because I don't want to be smudging anything. It doesn't matter if I'm a bit messy into this hairline, because that's already dark anyway, so that's going to get covered up. All that matters is that I'm getting these shadows the correct shape and that it looks three-dimensional. I might need to go in and actually use a slightly darker graphite pencil. I'm just going to see how much I can build up just by using the 4B. So I'm just following the reference photo. Still keep building it up with this 4B pencil. Just take your time. Not worry too much if I get it outside the lines because I can clean that up once I'm finished. So keep blending it out using this tissue. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting the facial structure right and getting all the contours right, because if you don't get them correct, then the face won't look structurally correct. So like I said in a past video, if you're not sure of what the contours and highlights generally are for face, then just go and Google search contours of the face and they should come up. And it tends to be that the main contours are the cheekbones. There tends to be shadows around the temple areas and the forehead, and there's also a lot of shadow under the chin as well. So I'm just going to continue to build up all of the shadows on the face. And I'm using the 4B pencil to do this. And I'm just building it up very, very slowly. It's important to make sure that it looks like the neck is further back than the chin is. So it will be slightly darker than the chin because it's underneath it, it's further back. So it's important to understand how lighting affects certain areas so that you understand where the shadows and the highlights should be. So I can build this up in multiple layers, so I don't need to worry about getting it all how I want it to be the first time around. I can go and darken it bits up in afterwards. It's just about getting it roughly all marked in. So now I'm going to go in with my tissue and just blend it out. I'm going to use circular motions. So now it's all nice and smooth, and then I can go and build up the shadows again with that same pencil. So really build up where those dark shadows are. So over here. And I'm just really looking at the reference photo and following what I can see. And the more you do portraits, the more you'll see patterns of where the shadows tend to be, where the highlights tend to be, and you'll be able to see patterns in what you should be doing when you're drawing your portraits. So it doesn't matter how many layers it takes you to do this, as long as you're getting a result that you're happy with. So as you start to build up the layers, you can start to apply more and more pressure if you need to darken up certain areas. But I'd always recommend starting light and then building it up with the pressure. rather than just going in really, really hard at the start. Okay, so now I'm going to leave the neck for now. I'll come back to it in a bit, but I'm just going to leave it for now and work on the face some more. So I really want to work on adding the contours to the face. Make sure that you're not smudging all the other areas you've done, like the eye and the nose and the mouth. Otherwise that could create a big mess and really ruin everything. Just again, I'm still just following the reference photo, adding shadows where there are shadows in the reference photo. And if you just follow what you see rather than trying to think that you know where the shadow should be, then it's more likely to turn out correct if you're just following exactly what you see. So I'm just going to try my best to mark in all these shadows as dark as they need to be, and then I'll blend it out. You can see I'm being so messy. I'm not worrying about making it perfect because the tissue does such a good job at smoothing everything out. It really, really does. The key is just to keep everything very light in terms of pressure. See, everything's looking very harsh at the moment, but you've got to remember it softens so much once you actually blend it out. So you've got to bear that in mind when you're doing your pencil strokes, how much it's actually going to soften out. And if it does look a bit too liney, you can go and fix that later on. It's not the end of the world if it does look a bit, if you can see some pencil strokes. So you can see that the structures are really starting to take form now. Even though I'm just blocking it at the moment, you can see that it actually looks a bit more, the contours and highlights are looking a lot more like the right structures of the face. Just make sure you're following what you can see on the reference photo. And I'm actually going to go in with the lighter grade to add some of the lighter shadows. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with the tissue and blend this out. I'm just going to put it on the end of my finger and use that to blend out the area. I'm going to do it as light as possible, but just use a bit of pressure if I need to soften out any pencil strokes that are showing through. I'm going to rotate the area I'm using as well, so I'm always using a clean side of the tissue, especially if I'm blending out the highlighted areas. So I'm going to go in again and I'm going to use that 4B pencil again and just build up those shadows once more. I'm just going to build up the main darkest shadows this time. And I'm going to blend it out as I go along. So there's a lot of different ways that you could create this skin. You could do it the way I'm doing it, or you could also use the cotton bud with the charcoal powder to add some shadows. I just feel like this way is going to give me more of a smoother finish. But if I want to get certain dark areas in a minute, I might go and switch over to using a bit of that charcoal powder, because I want to get those areas as dark as they are in the reference photo, and I'm not sure the 4B is going to be the most effective way of getting there. So I'm just going to keep building it up and see how it goes, because the graphite does give a really smooth finish. So I'm just keep checking and making sure that I'm not smudging in any of the areas. Really try to avoid putting your hand and moving it around onto the areas you've already done. It can be difficult, but just make yourself very conscious and aware of it. Okay, so now I think it's about time to go in with the charcoal powder and the cotton bud and just start to blend in those contours a bit. So I haven't added any onto this cotton bud because it's quite dirty already and it's got quite a lot of it on it already, so I'm just going to lightly use that to try and darken up these contours. So her contours are quite prominent and it's very key to her facial structure, so that's why it's really important that you make sure you get your contours right, especially for the person and how their unique contours are, because if you don't get them right then it can really change the whole structure of their face and it might not look like them anymore. So you got to make sure you get their cheekbones correct and all that sort of stuff. I'm gonna now get some of the charcoal powder. I'm just slowly gonna build this up. Using circular motions again. Always using circular motions. So charcoal is a little bit more unpredictable than the graphite is for blending it out, so you might not get it as smooth. So you've just got to be extra careful, extra cautious when you use the charcoal, because it can just come off really, really dark and not smooth. So I'm now going to try and go in with the extra hard charcoal pencil. Actually, I'm going to go in with the HB pencil and just use that to add a bit of charcoal to the hairline. So I'm just going to go and outline the hairline, and then I can use that charcoal powder to blend into these contour areas, if that makes sense. So I'm just generally adding the shapes of the hair in, so that I can use that charcoal powder to do the face. now I'm going to go back in with that cotton bud and try to blend that charcoal powder into the skin around it. And you can always go and add more of the charcoal and blend that out. So I can blend that charcoal. Blend, blend, blend. Can even go So because the charcoal strokes show through a lot more than the graphite strokes, I'm making sure that I'm doing them in different directions so that they overlap and the pencil strokes aren't so obvious. Then I'm going to use the 4B to blend that, make it a softer transition into the areas around it. It's all about soft transitions with portraits. So I'm now just using that graphite pencil to try and add this shadow where it's not really the hair yet, but there's some of the kind of baby hairs coming down on this darker area. I'm just going to use more pressure to add in these shadows as well now. Switch over to a cleaner tissue. So I'm going to use my charcoal pencil down here, because this is quite a dark area. I'm just going to use my cotton bud to try and build up the shadows. Okay, I'm just going to go back in with that 4B. So I'm just going to add the shadows one more time. Pressing quite hard on that 4B pencil now. Because I really want it to go dark. So you've just got to be careful, because the harder you press with the pencil, the more likely you are to get strokes shown through. So in some of the places you can't see where I've actually added this graphite because the light's reflecting on it. But I think it's up there. But if I put my hand there, you can sort of see. I'm going to go over to the F and just add some of the shading with the F because it's slightly lighter. So I'm using it on these areas where there's shadow, but it's not as dark as the other shadows. Okay, so now I want to blend it out, and I'm going to see how it goes if I was to use a cotton bud to blend it out, because I really don't just want it to become over smooth and lose all the actual contours. But actually, if I just use my finger like this, should be fine. I'm just going to go nice and slowly, work on the actual contour itself, work at a section at a time rather than just going and doing the whole area. So you can see that I haven't blended it into the highlights yet, and then I'm going to put the clean bit of tissue on the highlights and just smudge it all together there. Back to blend in the forehead. So I just want to darken a few of the areas. So now I just want to go in with the kneaded eraser and just pull up some of the highlights. And to do this, it's best to make quite a large area and just to go and pat it onto the actual skin. So I'm just going to start with this sort of area here. I'm just going to use it to slightly lighten up and get those highlights. So just follow the reference photo. Like I said, look at images of where the contours and highlights should be. It tends to be that there's a highlight above the eyebrows. That's very common. So I'm literally just patting it on and lightly pulling off bits of the graphite to make those subtle highlights. And they are quite subtle actually on the forehead. There's no real harsh highlights on the forehead. Also use some clean tissue to blend out those highlights. So just under the eye, at the top of the cheekbones, tends to be a highlighted area as well. So I'm just lifting off some of the graphite from that area. Again, I'm going to use a clean area of the tissue to just blend out those highlights. Can use it here as well. And then work on the chin. So I might go in with the actual eraser in a minute just to pull up some harsher highlights. So there's a little highlight under where that contour on the cheek is. It's very subtle. So I'm going to just leave that quite subtle there. So now back to the neck, darken the neck up. Gonna move on to the charcoal now. Really start to intensify and add the shadows as dark as they need to be. So I really just want to get them as dark as they need to be now. No more messing around with it, just get them in. So I decided to add it on the cheeks as well. See how it goes. Looks very scary at the moment. Using the cotton bud to blend. I might switch on to the tissue in a minute. Yep, so moving on to the tissue. Go in a different direction now. So I've nearly finished with the neck, nearly got it to where it needs to be. So now we just need to do the same thing with the cheekbones and get that to a place where it's dark enough. Yes, I'm just going to go in with the clean end, put the rest in my hand so it doesn't go anywhere. Slowly blend that out. And blend this one out. Okay, gonna just add a bit more. I'm going to try and use the 4B pencil as well. So I'm going to go in with that 4B pencil as well on the neck a bit. Adding the graphite over the top just really helps get rid of any graininess there is. So that's where I like to do that step. So pretty much going to be done with the skin. Once I've added in the hair, I have a better idea of whether I need to tweak the skin, which I know I will, but I'll understand which areas I need to change and stuff like that. It's hard to see this area because of the light source. Again, I'm just going to quickly fill out some highlighted areas. So I'm happy with how it looks so far. I think I want to add a bit more texture to the skin. But for now I want to block the hair in first. And then we'll finish everything off. Okay, so that's it with the skin for now. We will be going back in and tweaking the skin later on. But for now, that's all I'm going to do to it. I'm going to go in now and we're going to do the hair. So I will see you soon when we complete the hair.